Welcome to A Cuppa with Carley. This is a series of casual chats with interesting people doing interesting things. It really is that simple. Cheers. What have you got in your cup today? We could pretend it's coffee, but it's not. Go on.
No, it's not. It's sparkling water. I've already had my 2 cups, so I'm not going to go for a third.
You're on the spark.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Good. Well, first of all, thanks a million for joining me. For anyone who doesn't know Tara, and everyone probably does know Tara, she is one of my best friends since we were knee-high to a grasshopper, as they say. And B is also a marketing guru, LinkedIn guru, sales guru, people guru, communications guru, content guru. She's everything embodied in, I think, human psychology of communication. I would say you're amazing at. But I always have to bring it back to our common thread, which is that events is our little by trade together that we studied in the postgrad years. And I would still consider, even with your marketing and comms head on your shoulder, you still love events, right?
Yeah, 100%. Like when I think about marketing trends for 2026, there's people that I follow and they're all talking about marketing going offline now for 2026.
Because so online, kind of de-digitization of marketing.
Well, when you think about the online world, it's so competitive, it's so noisy, it's so hard to stand out. So when you think about, when I think about brands and when I study brands as an example, I look at like Rode or Skims. And what have they been doing? They've been using digital to scale a message, but then they've been doing these events for that deeper community connection, the pop-up shops, like you just have to follow Kim and Nike in that Skims scenario. And they're all doing events, because I think events is where you can build that deeper connection and trust with the community of your legiancy followers.
Yeah.
And events create so many offline moments that create user-generated content.
Yeah.
So for me, if you're creating marketing assets and you're thinking about investment, you could think about, we could host an event, create deeper connection, millions of micro moments, lots of user-generated content that will live and breathe on. So I think the value for money in offline marketing is nearly 10x when it's blended with online.
Yeah,
and it's very dominant now, because I think in an online world we are craving that offline connection as well. And funnily enough, when I think about my customers, I'm 6.5 years working with staffing agencies in the UK and Ireland. There's a common thread in the ones that are doing really well. And the common thread is they host events.
Yeah.
Really topical events with the close-knit community, and they have podcasts. So I think there's an appetite there that an event will give you an in-depth look into a particular topic or a data or an insight, whereas you might not get that with a dopamine type hit online.
Exactly, yeah. One of the pieces that resonated quite deeply with me recently is your quote unquote, a stale company page is proof of no culture, no proof, no story, and that equals no trust. And I just thought that linking of all of those things in one sentence is powerful. But can you talk more about your role in LinkedIn, and also the role of what LinkedIn and other social platforms are doing to build that kind of proof and trust and context behind stories and brands? And I think when we go to brands, there's personal brands as well as company brands. And I think you're a huge advocate of building your personal brand as well.
Yeah. So I'll go to my role in LinkedIn first. For nearly 7 years now, I've predominantly been working with staffing agencies in the UK and Ireland. And obviously they invest in LinkedIn from various capacities. Their brand, again, personal brand, company brand, solutions to hire talent, because that's what they do for their customers. And for me, when my customers don't have the belief that they need to invest in their brand on LinkedIn, I'm 6.5 years looking at data to show that when someone has engaged with their brand prior to them reaching out, their response rates are up 30 and 40 and 50% versus a cold outreach. And we have to think about the reason for that. So I always say, think about your customer's journey on LinkedIn, for example, right? And this could be relevant for any platform. I'll use Instagram as an example, not to be biased then towards LinkedIn. I always say to customers, do you come across new brands on Instagram? And they always say yes all the time, albeit in your stories or in your posts. Okay, walk me through your journey as what you would do if you like the look of that brand, if you've never heard of them before. I go onto their page. Now walk me through your process. Well, typically what I'm doing is looking through their grid, their reels, their highlights, their user-generated content, i.e. their stories, posts from other people who've bought from the brand, stayed at the hotel, dined in that restaurant. And then I ask them, now what do you do? I follow them, or maybe I don't, because follow means I'm subscribing. I want to get more of their content. And I'm like, now can you imagine if that brand engaged with you after that activity? How more likely are you to get back in touch with them? And what has that page actually done? It's influenced you. Because when we think about how people make decisions, all it requires is information. So for me, as a brand, if you're showing up as a brand, constantly providing information above and beyond what the consumer can even expect of you, their decision to probably convert with you will increase. So with my customers, when they use LinkedIn, I tell them, if you're doing your 360 process on LinkedIn, BD, candidate lead gen, and those people decide to research you back, where do you think they'll go? A website is that shop window type stuff. Like I always joke about how it never usually gets a visit from the merchandising team, right? To dicky it up, because it's a shop window. It kind of remains stale. Whereas your socials are the heartbeat. And if you're not meeting customers' expectations of having a real life, real-time heartbeat, here's what we did yesterday, you're not meeting their expectations. And you know what happens when you don't meet someone's expectations. They're disappointed. You're diluting trust. They decide not to engage with you, not to follow you, not to respond to your message, or whatever it is that you're trying to achieve from an outcome point of view. And then equally, because we're so online as well, like in a digital world, people are trying to create trust digitally. So I always talk about followers being a barometer of trust. Like again, if you landed on the Instagram page of one brand selling the same pair of trainers as the other, but one had 20 followers and the other 20,000 followers, like who are you likely to part with your credit card details for? For me, it's so important. You're meeting customer expectations. They make purchasing decisions through information gathering. If you're showing up as a brand, providing information beyond their expectations, that's incredible. And then pages are there to influence, to wow you. Without all that stuff, I don't see you having much success. It's so important. Then to your point around the personal brand, for me, I think it's very important. Like again, I think it's one of your questions later, but I'm really into founder-led content at the moment. I listen to a lot of founders. But when I think about historically, the brands that I love and follow, Steve Jobs had his own brand, Apple had their own brand, and then the iPhone had its own brand. So for me, I think branding can be split into three segments. It could be the personal founder and their story. And their why can often create an affiliation and a community of, again, legacy customers. And then you have the actual brand, Apple. We all know the why about the Apple story, and that Simon Sinek TED Talk that he talks about why Apple is so successful from a marketing point of view. And then we have the actual brand of the laptop or the iPhone. Like, I think that's a product brand. So I think thinking about that as well is really important. And like even you at Grey Dog, like if you have X number of employees and they all have their own personal brand and they all become unique specialists, and talking about what they do and how they execute on for their customers, they will become, again, the association will be, he's an expert, he works for Grey Dog, they're an expert, and then this is the event that they do and that's their product. So you can nearly have three separate brands under the one umbrella, if you will. And I think it's really important.
It is, and I think that the digital touch points, or the brand touch points you have with a potential purchaser, with an engaged user, an engaged reader of your content. As you've said there, you need to touch people on so many levels before they want to engage with your brand, whether by communication or by purchase.
I have two thoughts on that. Not thoughts, I suppose, but there's two people that I follow. So Daniel Priestley, I've spoke to you about Daniel Priestley before. He said on your 11th...
That was like, and you've done your homework, haven't you? You've listened to him.
You've subscribed to him. On your 11th outreach, your prospect is hearing about you for the first time. Which is on your 11th, it's nuts. It is nuts. So when you think about, like, okay, I called that person, I emailed them, I connected with them on LinkedIn. That's 4. How are you going to scale the others?
This is the thing.
And what are you thinking about? And then the other thing, you mentioned at the start of this chat that I'm into psychology. I'm really into sales psychology. So Alex Hormozi talks about how if we receive a message in different formats, our ability to recall and resonate with that message improves because we store different information in different parts of our brain. Now, what do I mean by that? Now, my customers will probably tell you, and they're probably sick of me at this point, but like I think about, they've received a message from me in an email, and then I've invited them to a webinar. So that's a different format. Then I've sent a shorter form video on it a week later, and then we've had an in-person event. So they've received that same message from me in 4 different capacities. So again, I'm hoping the email is stored here, and the video is stored over here, and then the webinar, and then the in-person event is stored over here. And again, as a consumer, if you're able to recall and recite what that message was about how important it is to build your brand on LinkedIn, I hope the fact that they're able to resonate and recall that message better reaffirms the point.
Yeah, and their trust in you and their trust in LinkedIn. You know what I mean? And that's the knock-on effect. It's funny, coming back to the conversation we had a couple of weeks ago when we were kind of hitting a wall with a piece of content we were working on. And off the back of our conversation, I actually took that piece of content and lifted it out of our marketing department. And I gave it to 3 or 4 other people within the business that are not involved in marketing.
Oh, yeah.
And I said, can you dissect this? Can you come back to us with a load of different ways that we can use this one anchor piece of content? And the non-marketing team came back with like 57 ideas. And there was things thrown in there like, do a meme on this and do this and do this and do this and take these 6 powerful quotes out. Things that at that point, we actually just needed fresh eyes on it. Because if that piece of content isn't working hard for you, then what's the point of putting all the hours into it beforehand, you know? And it is about how can we get it into all those different buckets in someone's brain in different guises, through imagery, through voice, through events,
memes.
through marketing, through memes, has resonated back. But yeah, it's a hugely interesting area, and it's something that I have to thank you for in a lot of ways, because a lot of the people that I now listen to as being kind of masters in that marketing and sales psychology piece have come from recommendations from yourself and your husband Hugh. We lived together for a while, but off the back of that, there'd be plenty of times where I'd text and be like, can you recommend something for me to listen to or to read or whatever. Matt Green is one of those people. Matt Green's content, as you describe, is your religion, what you live by. But they're giving something back to anyone that's listening or watching this. Who are your top 3 or 4?
So I did mention I like founder-led content.
Yeah.
Now I think there's a big reason for that, because my job is in sales at the end of the day. That's what I am. I talk to business
You're
owners
passionate about
all
it as
day,
well,
every
though.
day. But like to be able to sell, I need to understand. And I've never owned a business, right? So I don't understand the problems that they're going through every day, and I have to understand them. So for me to get to listen to these people talk about the behind the scenes, the problems they're trying to solve, how they become these solutions architects of problems that they have no experience in, that's what compels me to listen to them, because I think it's so interesting. But to name the people, Dermot O'Connor from Portmarnock and Ross Keating. Dermot has successfully built and sold businesses, and he's on a journey at the moment. Himself and Ross Keating are creating a company called Overpath.
Okay.
This
is like gold dust.
It is. It really is, because they only put up a post yesterday about what they've achieved in the first 2 months.
Amazing.
And I'm like, I feel really lazy. Like, how have I not achieved a quarter of that? Like, it's just really compelling how much money they've raised through investment. You know, what systems they've set up for themselves, what processes, what events and clients that they've done, what communities they've talked to, how they've hired. I was like, it's class. But they're talking again. There's a videographer obviously following them around, documenting the entire journey, and I love to watch it, right? And because again, Dermot is from Portmarnock. There's a little bit of bias in me that's like, go on, I'm subscribed to this. Like, I like to see him.
I'm in there.
Yeah.
Will you sponsor the GA team?
A little pluggity plug. The next person is Grace Beverly from Tala.
Okay.
Gym
Where have you been hiding these ones? I haven't.
I'm head to toe in Tala. I love Grace Beverly.
Yeah.
So that, actually, and Grace speaks to the personal brand and the company brand, because I follow her as a brand, as a businesswoman, and then her brand Tala. But she's other ones called Shreddy and things like that. Grace again documents the entire journey, and she's moved from the e-commerce world, and then she actually kind of like events. She was like, I'm so sick of customers saying I can't feel the product. I don't know what you're talking about when you say it's buttery soft. She was like, I need customers to feel this and experience it in person. So she opened her first bricks and mortar store in Canary Wharf, I think.
Amazing.
That could be a lie. But I watched the whole store opening behind the scenes 48 hours before it opened, the pressure she was under. But then if you go to her page, she actually has a pitch deck to help people starting off looking to secure funding for investment.
Yeah.
And she was like, here's my pitch deck, because here's all the mistakes that I made when I was pitching for funding, and here's what you should do. And it's literally like an entire end-to-end pitch deck to secure funding for your business and what an investor would look for. And I was like, that is an incredible asset to be able to give somebody starting off, having no idea what an investor or a venture capital crowd would look for in terms of why they would invest in you.
Yeah.
So she's incredible. And then the person that like no one's going to be surprised by this is Alex Hormozy.
Yeah. He was the best recommendation you ever made for me as well.
He has a portfolio of businesses that he helps build and scale and grow. But he offers certain companies of a certain size all his stuff for free.
Yeah.
Like his business model is give 90% away for free in content, value add stuff, and then help the top 10% that will generate you squillions, right? But his content is incredible from a lead gen perspective.
I've got two last questions for you. One is maybe a bit of a loaded question because it's again something that I ask you for on a regular basis. But top 3 tips right now on how to make LinkedIn work for you as a company or an individual from an algorithm perspective.
Okay. I have top 3 things, but in 2 separate buckets, right?
Yeah.
And if I hear or see a comment on, how to hack the algorithm, it's just like, will you please stop trying to hack something?
There's nothing to hack.
There's nothing to hack, right? So advice number 1 in this bucket over here, we're a social media platform at the end of the day. And what it is to be social is to have a conversation, right? A 2-way conversation. So for me, comments are king. That's what LinkedIn wants. It wants to see that you have sparked a debate. You've evoked an emotion in somebody that they feel compelled to comment. Okay. And then responding to comments. If comments are king, responding to comments is queen. And add more context. Add more advice, more guidance, or give them a deeper insight into what the topic you were talking about.
Not just thanks.
Cheers.
Love you.
Increasing dwell time. So dwell time literally means someone has stopped and thought about what you said, watched your video, or flicked through your carousel if it has been flickable, basically, if it has been interesting enough to flick through. So increasing dwell time does suggest, okay, something has stopped this person.
We're going to keep on pushing this out to people.
In their tracks, right? So that's one bucket. Over here then, going back to the psychology piece, right? I thought this was really interesting. So they did a study on a very busy retail street. Okay, and they got a participant to walk down this street. Now this street was full of people, really, really busy.
Yeah.
Okay, and they asked the participant, let us know if anything stands out to you.
Yeah.
And at the end of that person's walk down this really, really busy street, they were like, nothing really stood out to me. They did the study 3 more times. And in each time they put something scary into the crowd, they put something sexy into the crowd, and they put something familiar into the crowd. And each time the participant finished the walk down this really busy street, and they said, did you notice something? They said, yeah, actually there was this guy that was really scary. Like he kind of stood out to me. So that there's that, like, going back to like man cave days. It's like we are built to look out for things,
that make us alert.
Yeah. So something scary stands out to you.
Yeah.
Something sexy stood out to the person, and then something familiar. Like if I was in a busy street walking down somewhere and I thought I saw you, I thought little blonde bob head nerd. I'd be like, I think that's Carley. And then I'd become fixated and focused on it. So
it's natural, don't worry.
Yeah. Why I tell that story to customers is something scary can stand out to a business owner.
Yeah.
Because loss aversion is something that acts like as a natural thing that manufactures intent. Because your content, again, you need to think, I'm going to manufacture intent with it. That's my objective. That they pick up the phone, they download that report, whatever the intent is. And if a CEO is reading your content and he or she is like, oh my God, like maybe the CEO of Nokia, there's a famous case study about the demise of Nokia, and the CEO was like, it's not that we didn't do anything wrong, it's just that we didn't really actually understand the trends and ride the wave and get on board with what was happening in the industry. And for me, it's like, if you produced content that potentially was scary to your decision maker, your target audience, they might be like, oh my God, like, what if I don't act now? How sustainable is my business if I don't do this?
To create that urgency.
Yeah, again, with something sexy or something familiar. Familiar could be, like, again, Daniel Priestley talks about it when he wanted to penetrate the UK market. When he moved over to the UK, he was like, who's a familiar person in business in this world? Stephen Bartlett's his first podcast I'm going to do, because people associate him with X, Y, and Z, and I want to become familiar with that world too.
No, that makes a lot of sense, and I think, you know what, it comes back to this, like, you can dwell so much over what are we going to promote, how are we going to interest people, how are we going to intrigue people, and if you don't put your mind back into the mindset of your consumer or of your potential reader or your potential engager, there's no point.
Yeah,
you know,
what are
have
their
to put yourself
problems?
back into their headspace.
What's keeping them up at night, and how are you solving for those problems? And if they don't solve those problems, what's the impact? What's the issue? Yeah.
Totally makes sense. And again, I actually find this, I know we spoke about it previously, but I think the whole wave of digital noise and so much out there right now, and so much AI generated content and everything, like, it is the time now where it's about breaking it back down to the basics, and a lot of the basic principles of marketing and of events and of anything interacting with consumer side is about engagement. And just really looking at how do you engage people's interests, pique people's interests, the psychology of marketing, which is what you are the best at.
No, I just think I listen to a lot of stuff about it.
Well, keep on listening. Listen, Tara, thank you so much for coming on today.
Anytime.
Cheers. It was lovely to have you. I love chatting to you.
Anytime.
We'll talk to you again tonight.
I'm roasting.
There you go. Was that okay?